Greetings, my friends, new and old. My name is Sage, and I'm here to guide you through the history and lore behind the wizarding world. Feel free to get cozy and relax, or even fade into deep slumber as we dive into this video's theme, herbology and magical plants. Herbology has always occupied a quiet but essential place at the heart of magical education, long before Hogwarts formalised it as a subject with timetables and examinations. In the earliest periods of wizarding history, plant magic was not an academic pursuit, but a matter of survival. Witches and wizards depended on enchanted roots, leaves, fungi, and seeds for healing injuries, warding homes, concealing settlements, and supplementing scarce resources during times of persecution. Unlike wand-based spell work, which could draw attention through light, sound, and magical residue, plant magic worked slowly and subtly, blending into the rhythms of the natural world. This made it one of the safest and most reliable forms of magic during eras when wizardkind was forced to remain hidden. As magical communities gradually stabilized, knowledge that had once been passed orally within families began to be gathered, catalogued, and refined. Herbology emerged as a discipline rooted in observation rather than domination. Plants could not be commanded in the same way as enchanted objects, nor coerced as easily as magical creatures. They required patience, consistency, and an understanding of seasonal cycles. Early magical scholars recognized that plants responded not only to spells, but to care, environment, and intent. This recognition shaped herbology into a field that valued attentiveness over power and stewardship over spectacle. When Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry was founded, the inclusion of herbology was inevitable. A school intended to educate young witches and wizards comprehensively could not ignore the living foundation upon which so much magic depended. The castle itself was constructed in harmony with the surrounding land, and the grounds were chosen not merely for defensibility or seclusion, but for their fertile soil and naturally occurring magical ley lines. From the beginning, spaces were set aside for cultivating plants that could not thrive in ordinary conditions. These early cultivation areas would eventually become the greenhouses, evolving alongside the school as knowledge expanded and classifications became more precise. The greenhouses at Hogwarts were never meant to be ornamental. Unlike decorative gardens designed for leisure or prestige, these structures existed for instruction, research, and preservation. Magical plants often possess volatile properties that make uncontrolled growth dangerous, both to themselves and to those nearby. Housing them required careful planning, reinforced enchantments, and an acceptance that the buildings would need to adapt continually. As new species were introduced and previously unknown behaviours documented, the greenhouses expanded in number and complexity, each becoming a controlled environment tailored to the needs of its inhabitants. What distinguishes magical plants from their non-magical counterparts is not merely their effects, but their responsiveness. Many magical plants react to sound, emotion, proximity, and even intent. This responsiveness makes them uniquely suited to teaching young students the consequences of carelessness and the rewards of respect. A poorly tended potion ingredient may lose potency, but a poorly handled magical plant may defend itself, retreat, or perish. Through herbology, students learn that magic is not always about immediate results. Growth takes time, and misuse often carries consequences that cannot be undone with a simple counterspell. Over centuries, herbology also became a bridge between disciplines. Potioneers relied on precise cultivation to ensure consistent ingredients. Healers depended on fresh and properly prepared plant matter for restorative draughts and salves. Even defensive magic drew upon plant-based substances for antidotes, protective charms, and containment measures. Despite this, herbology often retained a reputation as gentle or secondary, an impression shaped more by its quiet methods than by its actual importance. Within the greenhouses, however, the reality was clear. Without plant magic, much of wizarding society would simply cease to function. The decision to house herbology instruction outdoors, rather than within the castle walls, also reflects an important philosophical stance. Magical plants resist confinement in the same way magic resists stagnation. The greenhouses exist on the threshold between cultivated space and wild land, allowing students to experience controlled magic without severing it from its natural origins. Weather, light, and seasonal change remain perceptible even through enchanted glass, reinforcing the idea that plant magic is inseparable from time and environment. This exposure grounds students in a reality that purely theoretical study cannot provide. Historically, the greenhouses have also served as repositories of endangered magical flora. As wizarding expansion, magical accidents, and environmental changes reduced wild populations, Hogwarts took on the responsibility of preservation. Some plants cultivated within its grounds no longer exist naturally in Britain, surviving only through careful propagation and institutional memory. This role transformed the greenhouses into living archives, where each plant represented not only a lesson, but a lineage stretching back generations. Students working among them participate, often unknowingly, in an act of conservation. The atmosphere within the greenhouses reflects this layered purpose. Earthy scents mingle with sharper, unfamiliar aromas. Soil hums faintly with contained enchantments. Leaves curl, unfurl, or shudder in response to footsteps. The space is alive in a way that differs from the animated staircases and talking portraits of the castle. Here life is slower, more deliberate, and less accommodating to human convenience. The greenhouses do not bend themselves to students. Students must adapt to them. This environment shapes the way herbology is taught and experienced. Lessons emphasize preparation, protective measures, and awareness before action. Students are encouraged to observe changes over days and weeks, to record subtle shifts in growth or behaviour, and to recognise when intervention is necessary and when restraint is wiser. Failure often arrives quietly, through withered leaves or dulled properties, rather than dramatic explosions. These quiet failures are among herbology's most effective teachers. Over time, many witches and wizards discover that their relationship with herbology extends beyond the classroom. Some develop a lifelong affinity for plant magic, drawn to its rhythm and reliability. Others gain a deeper respect for the labour that underpins everyday magical conveniences. Even those who never return to a greenhouse professionally carry forward an understanding that magic is sustained, not summoned from nothing. Every potion brewed, every healing draught administered, traces its origins back to soil, water, and patient cultivation. In this way, the greenhouses stand as some of the most honest spaces at Hogwarts. They offer no shortcuts and reward no arrogance. They remind students, gently but persistently, that magic thrives where care is given consistently and knowledge is applied with humility. Long after exams are forgotten and spells perfected, the lessons learned among leaves and roots continue to shape how witches and wizards engage with the living world around them. Beyond their educational purpose, The physical design of the Hogwarts greenhouses reflects centuries of accumulated magical problem solving. From a distance, they appear deceptively simple. Long, low structures of glass and metal nestled against the edge of the grounds. Yet every pane, frame, and foundation has been modified to withstand pressures that ordinary architecture could never tolerate. Magical plants exert forces that are not merely physical. Some emit corrosive vapours, others radiate ambient heat or cold, and a few distort magical fields simply by existing. The greenhouses must absorb these influences without allowing them to bleed outward into the surrounding landscape. The use of enchanted glass is one of the most critical features of greenhouse construction. Unlike ordinary glass, which would shatter under magical strain, these panes are layered with reinforcing charms that allow light to pass freely while diffusing hostile energies. Sunlight remains essential to plant growth, even for magical species, but it must often be filtered or altered. Certain plants respond poorly to direct light, while others require intensities that would scorch human skin. The glass adjusts dynamically, darkening, brightening, or shifting spectral qualities in response to the needs of what grows beneath it. These changes occur gradually, almost imperceptibly, preserving a stable atmosphere rather than startling fluctuations. Temperature regulation presents an equally complex challenge. The British climate alone would be unsuitable for many magical plants that originate in deserts, jungles, or Arctic regions. Rather than relying on a single global charm, each greenhouse maintains its own internal equilibrium. Heat charms, cooling runes, and airflow enchantments operate independently, allowing one structure to mimic humid tropics, while another remains cool and damp. This separation is essential, as conflicting plant requirements can trigger stress responses or defensive behaviour. The boundaries between greenhouses are therefore as important as their interiors, reinforced to prevent magical cross-contamination. Soil within the greenhouses is never ordinary earth. Each bed is composed of carefully prepared mixtures designed to retain magical residue without becoming saturated. Over time, magical plants shed trace enchantments into their environment, subtly altering the soil around them. Left unmanaged, this build-up can warp growth patterns or destabilize nearby specimens. Hogwarts groundskeepers and herbology staff periodically rotate and cleanse soil beds, introducing grounding materials such as moon-calcinated sand or ash derived from controlled magical fires. These practices ensure that the soil remains receptive without becoming volatile. Containment wards form another invisible but vital layer of greenhouse design. Some magical plants exhibit migratory tendencies, extending roots, vines, or spores towards sources of magic beyond their designated space. Wards gently redirect this growth inward, discouraging escape without harming the plant. Unlike cages or barriers, these wards rely on suggestion rather than force, nudging magical energy back toward its origin. This approach aligns with Herbology's broader philosophy of cooperation rather than coercion. Plants that feel threatened or constrained too aggressively often respond with heightened aggression or dormancy. Sound dampening is a less obvious but equally important consideration. Certain plants respond violently to noise, vibration, or sudden movement. Others, such as mandrakes, emit sounds that can be harmful or even fatal if unfiltered. The greenhouses incorporate layered charms that absorb and soften sound, allowing instruction to proceed without provoking unintended reactions. This creates the hushed, almost reverent atmosphere students often remark upon. Voices instinctively lower, footsteps slow, and even laughter feels out of place among leaves that might bristle at disturbance. The numbering of the greenhouses reflects both practical necessity and historical development. As new plants were introduced, additional structures were built rather than overcrowding existing ones. Each greenhouse acquired a reputation shaped by the nature of its contents. Some are known for relatively docile plants, suitable for early instruction, while others are approached with caution, even by experienced staff. This system allows students to progress gradually, encountering increased complexity and risk as their knowledge deepens. The numbers themselves carry no inherent meaning, but over time they become shorthand for difficulty, danger, and prestige. Access control is another subtle architectural feature. Doors to the greenhouses are keyed not only to physical locks, but to magical authorization. Younger students may find certain doors resistant, requiring a professor's presence or explicit permission to open. This restriction is not punitive, but protective. Magical plants do not distinguish between ignorance and malice. A curious hand reaching for the wrong leaf can trigger consequences disproportionate to intent. By limiting access, the school ensures that exposure aligns with preparedness. Maintenance of the greenhouses is a continuous process rather than a periodic task. Enchantments degrade over time, responding to stress, usage, and environmental shifts. Herbology professors work closely with caretakers to monitor structural integrity, renewing charms before failure occurs. This vigilance prevents incidents that could otherwise escalate quickly. A cracked pane or weakened ward may seem minor, but within a space housing aggressive magical flora, such weaknesses can invite rapid escalation. The location of the greenhouses on the Hogwarts grounds also serves a strategic purpose. Positioned at a slight remove from the castle, they minimise risk to the main structure, while remaining easily accessible for lessons. In the event of containment failure, magical buffers embedded in the surrounding earth activate to isolate the affected area. These safeguards have been refined over centuries, informed by past mishaps and near disasters. Each improvement reflects lessons learned, often quietly, from plants that tested the limits of their enclosures. Despite their complexity, the greenhouses never feel mechanical. Enchantments are designed to recede into the background, allowing natural processes to dominate. Students are not meant to be constantly aware of the magic holding the space together. Instead, they experience an environment that feels stable, grounded, and alive. This illusion of simplicity is itself an achievement, masking an intricate web of magical engineering beneath the surface. Through this careful design, the greenhouses become more than shelters. They function as mediators between human intention and plant autonomy, spaces where magic is guided rather than imposed. Every structural choice reinforces the lesson that cultivation requires foresight, patience, and respect. Long before students touch soil or leaf, the buildings themselves have already taught them something essential: that magic thrives best when it is supported quietly and allowed to grow within thoughtful boundaries. The steady functioning of the greenhouses depends not only on enchantments and architecture, but on the constant, attentive presence of the witch or wizard charged with their care. The role of the herbology professor extends far beyond teaching scheduled lessons. It is a position that blends educator, caretaker, researcher, and, at times, mediator between students and temperamental plant life. Unlike subjects confined to books or controlled spells, herbology unfolds continuously, regardless of timetables. Plants grow, rest, shed, and react at their own pace, and someone must always be listening to those rhythms. Historically, the position of herbology professor has been held by individuals with an unusual tolerance for unpredictability. Magical plants do not respect academic calendars. A specimen may enter a volatile growth phase without warning, or a previously dormant plant may suddenly demand attention. The professor must be prepared to respond at any hour, adjusting lesson plans, rearranging greenhouse access, or intervening directly to prevent harm. This constant readiness distinguishes herbology from many other disciplines, where preparation can be neatly contained within lesson periods. Professor Pomona Sprout stands as one of the most well-documented examples of what this role entails. Her tenure illustrates the balance between warmth and authority required to manage both students and plants effectively. Under her supervision, the greenhouses remained productive, safe, and deeply respected spaces. She approached plant care with the same seriousness afforded to magical creatures, emphasizing that neglect, even when unintentional, could have lasting consequences. Her methods were rooted in observation first, action second, a principle she instilled consistently in her students. Daily life for a herbology professor begins long before students arrive. Mornings are often spent assessing overnight changes, checking containment wards, and monitoring signs of stress or overgrowth. Magical plants may react to lunar phases, weather shifts, or residual magic from nearby activity. Identifying these influences early prevents escalation. Detailed logs are kept, noting growth rates, coloration changes, and behavioural patterns. These records form the backbone of long-term cultivation, allowing professors to anticipate cycles rather than merely react to them. Teaching itself requires careful choreography. Lessons must be structured around what the plants can tolerate on a given day. A class might be delayed or relocated if a specimen becomes unstable. Protective equipment is selected based on current conditions, not simply curriculum requirements. Ear protection, gloves, and shielding charms are introduced gradually, teaching students not only how to use them, but why they matter. The professor models calm attentiveness, demonstrating that fear and haste are more dangerous than most plants themselves. As students advance, the professor's role shifts subtly. Younger students are guided closely, with constant reminders and corrections. Older students are given more autonomy, but also more responsibility. They're expected to recognize warning signs, prepare materials independently, and assist in maintaining the greenhouse environment. Mistakes are addressed firmly but constructively, reinforcing the idea that accountability is an essential component of magical practice. Through this progression, students learn that mastery involves restraint as much as knowledge. Beyond instruction, herbology professors often engage in ongoing research. Magical plants evolve, adapt, and occasionally exhibit new behaviours. Discoveries may arise from small anomalies, an unexpected resilience, a shift in potency, or an unusual reaction to standard care. These findings are shared cautiously within the wider magical community, as dissemination without context can lead to misuse. The greenhouses thus function as both classrooms and laboratories, contributing quietly to collective understanding. The professor also serves as a gatekeeper, determining which plants are appropriate for study and when. Some specimens are too dangerous for routine instruction, reserved instead for demonstration or advanced research. Others may be temporarily withdrawn if conditions are unsuitable. This discretion protects students while preserving the integrity of the plants themselves. It also reinforces trust, reminding students that access to knowledge is earned through readiness, not entitlement. Coordination with other staff members is another essential aspect of the role. Potions masters rely on timely harvesting schedules. Healers may request specific plant matter for emergencies. Groundskeepers assist with soil management and structural maintenance. The herbology professor becomes a nexus through which many practical needs pass, translating plant cycles into usable resources without compromising sustainability. This coordination demands clear communication and an appreciation for the interconnectedness of magical disciplines. Perhaps most importantly, the herbology professor embodies an ethic of care that extends beyond professional obligation. Magical plants are not treated as mere tools or ingredients, but as living entities with intrinsic value. This attitude shapes the culture of the greenhouses. Students absorb it through repeated exposure, learning that respect is not an abstract concept, but a daily practice. The way a professor touches soil, addresses a plant, or pauses to observe growth communicates as much as any spoken instruction. Over years of teaching, a herbology professor witnesses generations of students pass through the greenhouses, each leaving subtle traces behind. Some return as adults, recalling specific plants with fondness or awe. Others pursue careers that draw directly upon what they learned among leaves and roots. The professor's influence persists quietly, embedded in habits of thought and care that extend far beyond Hogwarts. In this way, the role transcends the boundaries of a single subject. The herbology professor becomes a steward of living magic, responsible not only for transmitting knowledge, but for shaping how that knowledge is held. Through patience, vigilance, and humility, they ensure that the greenhouses remain places of growth rather than exploitation, and that the lessons learned there take root in minds as surely as seeds take root in soil. For many students, their earliest encounters with magical plants occur not through danger, but through quiet familiarity. The first specimens introduced in herbology lessons are chosen deliberately for their relative stability and forgiving nature. These plants form the foundation upon which more complex understanding is built, teaching students to recognize subtle magic woven into otherwise ordinary seeming growth. Leaves may shimmer faintly when healthy, roots may respond to gentle handling, and flowers may open or close in response to consistent care. Through these early experiences, students learn that magic does not always announce itself dramatically. These foundational plants are often those most commonly used in everyday wizarding life. They appear in household charms, simple potions, and restorative remedies that families rely upon without much thought. By working with them directly, students gain an appreciation for the labour and knowledge that underpin magical convenience. A calming draught, for example, depends not only on correct brewing, but on leaves harvested at the proper stage of growth. Timing rather than complexity becomes the central lesson. A plant picked too early may lack potency, while one harvested too late may produce unintended effects. Observation is emphasised repeatedly at this stage of instruction. Students are encouraged to watch how plants respond to light, water, and proximity. Some species thrive when spoken to softly, while others prefer minimal interaction. These differences are not framed as quirks, but as expressions of magical biology. Just as creatures exhibit distinct temperaments, so too do plants express preferences shaped by their magical makeup. Recognizing these patterns fosters patience and attentiveness, qualities essential to all branches of magic. Basic magical plants also introduce students to the concept of ethical harvesting. Leaves, stems, or seeds are taken in ways that allow the plant to recover, ensuring continued growth. This practice contrasts sharply with the extractive mindset sometimes associated with magic. Students learn that taking everything at once weakens not only the plant, but the system that sustains it. Instructors reinforce this lesson by demonstrating how over-harvested specimens decline, becoming less responsive, or losing magical potency altogether. Soil care becomes another focal point during these lessons. Students are taught that soil is not an inert medium, but a living component of plant magic. Nutrient balance, moisture retention, and magical saturation must all be considered. Simple grounding charms are introduced, not as spells to memorize, but as tools to support healthy growth. The act of tending soil becomes meditative, reinforcing the idea that preparation is as important as outcome. As familiarity grows, students begin to recognize the individuality of each plant. Even within the same species, variations emerge. One specimen may grow more quickly, another more densely. These differences prompt discussions about magical heredity and environmental influence. Students are encouraged to compare notes, fostering collaboration rather than competition. Success in herbology is framed not as outperforming peers, but as developing a reliable relationship with living magic. These early plants also serve as a gentle introduction to failure. Not every cutting takes root, and not every seed germinates. When a plant withers despite correct procedure, students are guided to examine potential causes without assigning blame. This approach normalizes imperfection and emphasizes learning through adjustment. Mistakes become opportunities to refine understanding rather than sources of embarrassment. Over time, students begin to internalize routines of care. Watering schedules, light adjustments, and pruning techniques become second nature. These habits translate seamlessly into other areas of magical study, where consistency often determines success. The greenhouses thus function as training grounds not only for plant care, but for disciplined magical practice more broadly. The sensory environment of these lessons plays an important role in shaping student experience. The scent of damp earth, the texture of leaves, and the quiet rustle of growth create a calming atmosphere. This sensory grounding contrasts with the intensity of spellcasting classes, offering students a different way of engaging with magic. For some, these moments become a refuge within the broader demands of Hogwarts life. As students progress, the foundational plants they once tended casually take on new significance. Ingredients they handled in early years reappear later in more complex contexts, reinforcing continuity in their education. This repetition, approached from new angles, deepens understanding without redundancy. Each return to a familiar plant reveals additional layers of complexity previously unnoticed. Through these gentle beginnings, herbology establishes its core philosophy. Magic, when rooted in care and attention, becomes sustainable and resilient. Students emerge from these early lessons with an intuitive grasp of growth and balance, prepared to encounter more demanding specimens without abandoning the principles that guided their first steps. The quiet confidence gained here forms the soil in which all subsequent herbological knowledge will grow. As students grow more confident in their handling of foundational plants, Herbology gradually introduces specimens that challenge assumptions about passivity and safety. These are plants that move, react defensively, or exhibit forms of awareness that blur the line between flora and creature. The transition is handled carefully, not to alarm, but to expand understanding. Magical plants, students learn, exist on a spectrum. Some remain content to grow quietly, while others have evolved mechanisms to protect themselves in a world where magic is both resource and threat. One of the first lessons emphasized at this stage is that danger does not imply malice. Many hazardous plants are not aggressive by nature, but reactive. Their movements, constrictions, or emissions serve specific purposes tied to survival. Understanding those purposes allows witches and wizards to work with them safely. Fearful handling often provokes stronger responses, while calm, informed interaction minimizes risk. This principle reinforces earlier lessons about intent and attention, now applied under more demanding circumstances. Plants such as devil's snare provide a clear example of this reactive danger. At rest, devil's snare appears unremarkable, its tendrils loosely coiled and inert. Yet when disturbed or exposed to panic, it constricts with remarkable strength. Students are taught to recognize environmental cues that influence its behavior, including light levels and emotional atmosphere. By observing rather than resisting, they learn that apparent hostility can often be diffused through understanding rather than force. Venomous tentacula introduces another dimension of risk. Unlike devil's snare, it actively defends its territory, snapping and striking when it senses intrusion. Its venomous spines and mobile vines necessitate protective measures and precise handling. Lessons involving such plants focus heavily on preparation. Gloves, shielding charms, and clear positioning are emphasized before any contact occurs. Students are reminded repeatedly that protective measures are not signs of weakness, but acknowledgements of reality. At this stage, the greenhouses themselves become more prominent participants in instruction. Students notice reinforced barriers, additional warding, and spatial arrangements designed to prevent close clustering. These environmental cues reinforce the seriousness of the material without relying on dramatic warnings. The atmosphere remains calm but alert. Even the air feels different, charged subtly by the presence of plants that command respect through their capabilities. Instruction shifts towards situational awareness. Students are encouraged to monitor not only the plant, but themselves and those around them. A sudden movement, raised voice, or lapse in focus can have immediate consequences. This awareness extends beyond physical safety. Emotional states matter. Agitation, overconfidence, or distraction can alter outcomes. Through guided experience, students learn to regulate themselves as part of responsible magical practice. Ethical considerations become more pronounced when dealing with semi-sentient plants. Some exhibit responses that suggest recognition or memory. While they do not communicate as creatures do, their behaviours indicate more than simple reflex. Professors address this complexity directly, emphasising humane treatment and necessity-based interaction. Plants are not to be provoked for demonstration or handled carelessly for amusement. Each interaction carries an implicit responsibility. Students also begin to understand why certain plants are restricted or regulated within the wider wizarding world. A specimen that can be managed safely within a greenhouse may pose unacceptable risks in uncontrolled environments. Discussions touch on magical lore and the reasons behind classification systems, grounding practical experience in broader societal context. Herbology thus becomes a lens through which students glimpse the balance between knowledge and regulation. Mistakes at this level are treated with seriousness, but not alarmism. Minor injuries or close calls are addressed promptly, with emphasis on prevention rather than punishment. Reflection follows action. Students are guided to analyse what occurred, identify contributing factors, and adjust behaviour accordingly. This reflective practice strengthens competence and builds confidence grounded in realism rather than bravado. As familiarity with hazardous plants grows, fear gives way to respect. Students learn that danger can be managed through preparation, understanding, and calm engagement. The plants themselves become less intimidating as their patterns are understood. What once seemed unpredictable reveals structure and logic, reinforcing the idea that magical systems, however strange, operate according to discernible principles. These experiences mark a turning point in herbological education. Students emerge with a deeper appreciation for the complexity of plant magic and a reinforced respect for boundaries. They begin to see that safety is not the absence of risk, but the result of thoughtful interaction with it. This understanding prepares them for the most demanding specimens yet to come, where life, sound, and magic intertwine in ways that test every lesson learned so far. Among all the plants cultivated in the Hogwarts greenhouses, mandrakes occupy a singular position. They are often the first magical plant students encounter that unmistakably resembles something alive in a recognisably humanoid way, and that resemblance alone carries profound psychological weight. From the moment a mandrake is unearthed, its presence challenges the comfortable categories students have relied upon. It is no longer possible to think of plant magic as distant or abstract. The mandrake asserts itself audibly, physically, and magically, demanding full attention and careful handling. Mandrakes are classified as a powerful restorative plant, prized for their ability to reverse some of the most severe magical afflictions known to wizarding medicine. Properly prepared mandrake restorative draught can revive those who've been petrified or otherwise suspended between states of life and consciousness. This utility alone would make the plant important, but its life cycle and behaviour elevate it to something closer to a moral lesson than a mere ingredient. Mandrakes are not passively harvested. They resist removal, and their cries can incapacitate or kill if heard unprotected. The mandrake life cycle unfolds in clearly defined stages, each with distinct properties and risks. Immature mandrakes resemble infants, both in size and in the pitch of their cries. While their screams are not yet lethal, they are still capable of rendering listeners unconscious for extended periods. This makes early handling exercises a critical introduction to safety protocols. Students learn to don earmuffs, coordinate movements, and act deliberately. The process emphasises teamwork, as no single student is expected to manage a mandrake alone. As mandrakes mature, their appearance becomes increasingly unsettling. Features sharpen, limbs elongate, and expressions grow more distinct. Their cries deepen in tone and intensity, becoming progressively more dangerous. At full maturity, a mandrake's scream is fatal to anyone who hears it directly. This escalation forces students to confront the reality that power and usefulness often come paired with risk. The same plant that can restore life can also end it, depending entirely on context and care. Cultivating mandrakes requires precise environmental control. They thrive in rich, magically active soil and require consistent watering schedules balanced carefully against drainage. Too much moisture can lead to rot, while too little induces dormancy or aggressive behaviour. Light levels must be moderated, as excessive brightness agitates them. These requirements reinforce earlier lessons about environmental sensitivity, now applied under higher stakes. Even minor deviations can delay maturation or compromise potency. Behavioural management is an equally important aspect of mandrake care. When disturbed unnecessarily, mandrakes may attempt to burrow deeper into the soil or thrash violently. Students are taught to recognise signs of agitation before escalation occurs. Subtle cues such as changes in leaf posture or root tension signal when intervention should be postponed. This emphasis on anticipation rather than reaction aligns with the broader philosophy of herbology, now sharpened by urgency. The ethical dimensions of mandrake cultivation are addressed openly in advanced instruction. Mandrakes are undeniably alive, and their humanoid characteristics provoke discomfort and debate. Students grapple with questions of consent, necessity, and responsibility. While mandrakes are cultivated specifically for medicinal use, their suffering is not ignored or minimized. Instructioner frames their use as a grave responsibility, justified only by the severity of the conditions they treat. Harvesting mandrakes for potion making is conducted with ritualized care. Mature mandrakes are removed only when required, and their preparation follows strict protocols designed to minimize unnecessary distress. Their cries are muffled through containment charms, and their processing is handled by experienced witches and wizards. Students observe rather than participate directly at this stage, reinforcing the idea that not all knowledge must be enacted to be understood. The restorative properties of mandrakes depend not only on maturity, but on timing. Harvested too early, they lack sufficient potency. Harvested too late, their properties may destabilize, producing erratic effects. This narrow window underscores the importance of patience and precision. Mandrakes cannot be rushed to meet demand. Healing, students learn, must proceed on its own terms. Mandrakes also serve as a powerful teaching tool beyond their immediate utility. They embody the intersection of life, danger, and care that defines advanced herbology. Through them, students confront the limits of control and the weight of responsibility that accompanies magical knowledge. The experience leaves a lasting impression, reshaping how students perceive the living components of magic. By the time students complete their studies of mandrakes, they have internalized lessons that extend far beyond a single plant. They understand that the most powerful magic often demands the greatest restraint, and that healing is rarely simple or comfortable. The mandrake, with its scream and its saving grace, stands as one of the clearest reminders that magic is inseparable from consequence, and that every act of restoration carries echoes of the life it disturbs. Beyond the controlled environments of the Hogwarts greenhouses lies a far broader world of magical flora, much of which resists domestication entirely. While students encounter a carefully curated selection of plants suited to instruction, the wider magical landscape of Britain and beyond contains species shaped by isolation, climate, and centuries of interaction with wild magic. Comparing greenhouse specimens to their untamed counterparts reveals not only differences in behaviour, but in philosophy. Cultivation alters plants in subtle but meaningful ways, tempering volatility while often reducing adaptability. Wild magical plants grow without containment wards, regulated soil, or moderated light. They draw directly from ley lines, ambient magic, and the unpredictable rhythms of the natural world. As a result, their properties can fluctuate dramatically. A healing plant harvested from the wild may exhibit greater potency one season and diminished effect the next. Environmental stresses, magical surges, or nearby spell work can alter growth patterns without warning. These variables make wild harvesting both valuable and dangerous, requiring expertise far beyond introductory herbology. Some plants refuse greenhouse cultivation altogether. Attempts to transplant them result in dormancy, aggression, or complete magical collapse. These species often rely on complex ecological relationships that cannot be replicated artificially. Soil composition, neighbouring flora, and even local magical creatures contribute to their survival. Removing them from that context severs invisible networks that sustain their magic. Hogwarts instructors emphasise that not all knowledge can be centralised, and that some magic must be encountered on its own terms. Other plants adapt reluctantly to cultivation, retaining traces of their wild nature. These specimens may behave unpredictably despite careful care, reminding students that control is never absolute. Such plants are often housed in advanced greenhouses with reinforced wards and limited access. Their presence serves as a bridge between classroom learning and field practice, illustrating the compromises inherent in domestication. Magical plants native to other regions pose additional challenges. Species originating in deserts, rainforests, or polar climates bring with them environmental expectations that strain even enchanted structures. Hogwarts greenhouses replicate these conditions as faithfully as possible, but instructors acknowledge the limitations. A plant grown far from its native land may survive, but rarely thrives in quite the same way. This recognition fosters humility, reinforcing the idea that magic is shaped by place as much as by spellcraft. Field research and expeditions form a small but significant part of advanced herbological study. Under supervision, some students observe wild magical plants in situ, learning to read landscapes and assess risk without the safety net of greenhouse wards. These experiences are tightly controlled and reserved for those who demonstrate both competence and restraint. The goal is not extraction, but understanding. Observation often yields insights that cultivation cannot. The distinction between wild and cultivated plants also carries ethical implications. Removing specimens from their natural habitats can disrupt fragile magical ecosystems. Hogwarts policy reflects this awareness, favouring propagation from existing cultivated stock rather than wild collection whenever possible. When wild harvesting is necessary, it is conducted sparingly and with restorative measures in place. Students learn that stewardship extends beyond institutional boundaries. Cultural attitudes toward magical plants vary widely across regions. In some wizarding communities, certain plants are revered or protected by tradition, while in others, they are exploited aggressively for commercial gain. These differences influence availability and perception. Hogwarts instruction acknowledges these variations, situating British practices within a broader global context. Understanding these perspectives helps students appreciate the diversity of magical relationships with the natural world. Over time, cultivated plants themselves can change. Generations grown under controlled conditions may lose traits essential for survival in the wild. This phenomenon raises questions about long-term preservation and authenticity. Are cultivated plants still true representatives of their species, or have they become something new? Herbology does not offer simple answers, but it encourages students to grapple with such complexities rather than ignore them. By examining magical plants beyond the greenhouses, students come to see cultivation as a dialogue rather than a conquest. Greenhouses provide stability and safety, but they also impose limits. Wild magic remains expansive, untidy, and resistant to full understanding. Respecting that balance prepares witches and wizards to engage responsibly with plant magic wherever they encounter it. This broader perspective reinforces one of Herbology's most enduring lessons, that knowledge grows best when tempered by humility. Whether tending a greenhouse bed or standing at the edge of a wild, magical forest, the same principles apply. Attention, restraint, and respect remain the foundations upon which all meaningful interaction with living magic is built. Herbology does not exist in isolation within the magical curriculum. Its influence extends quietly into nearly every other discipline taught at Hogwarts, forming a living foundation upon which more visible magic is built. Students often come to recognize this interdependence only gradually, as familiar plants reappear in new contexts and with heightened significance. What once seemed like simple cultivation reveals itself as preparatory work for far more complex applications. The most immediate connection is found in potions. Nearly every brewed mixture relies on plant-derived ingredients whose properties depend on careful cultivation. The effectiveness of a potion is shaped long before a cauldron is lit, beginning instead in soil composition, harvesting timing, and post-harvest handling. A leaf bruised during collection may release oils prematurely, altering a potion's balance. Roots stored improperly may lose potency or acquire unwanted magical residue. Through this connection, Herbology teaches students that success in potions is as much about preparation as it is about precision. This relationship also fosters respect between disciplines. Potions masters rely on Herbology professors to supply consistent, high-quality ingredients, while herbologists must understand how their plants will be used. Communication between these fields ensures that cultivation aligns with brewing needs. Students who excel in both subjects often develop an intuitive sense of how growth and transformation intersect, recognizing that magic is rarely confined to a single category. Healing magic represents another area where Herbology's influence is profound. Many restorative remedies depend on fresh plant matter whose properties diminish rapidly after harvesting. Healers must trust that plants have been grown under optimal conditions, free from contamination or stress that could compromise their efficacy. Certain magical plants respond to intent even after harvesting, retaining traces of the care with which they were cultivated. This subtle responsiveness reinforces the idea that healing begins long before treatment is administered. Defensive magic also draws upon plant-based knowledge, though this connection is often overlooked. Antidotes, protective salves, and containment agents frequently rely on botanical components. Understanding how plants neutralize toxins, absorb magical residue, or repel certain forces informs broader defensive strategies. In this way, Herbology contributes indirectly to safety and resilience within the wizarding world. Even the study of magical creatures intersects with plant magic. Many creatures depend on specific flora for habitat, nourishment, or camouflage. Altering plant populations can disrupt these relationships, leading to unintended consequences. Herbology provides insight into these dynamics, helping students appreciate the interconnectedness of magical ecosystems. This awareness supports more responsible engagement with creatures and environments alike. Charms and transfiguration, while seemingly distant from plant study, also benefit from herbological understanding. Enchanting plant matter requires sensitivity to its inherent magic, while transfiguring plants demands awareness of their structure and limitations. Misjudging these factors can result in unstable transformations or lasting damage. Herbology thus contributes a grounding influence, reminding students that magic imposed without understanding invites failure. As students advance, these connections become increasingly explicit. Instructors reference earlier herbology lessons, drawing threads between subjects. This integration reinforces continuity in magical education, countering the tendency to compartmentalize knowledge. Students begin to see their studies as parts of a cohesive whole rather than isolated requirements. This holistic perspective reshapes how magic is approached. Rather than seeking mastery through dominance, students learn to work within systems, respecting the roles each discipline plays. Herbology, with its emphasis on growth, care, and interdependence, provides a model for this approach. Its lessons ripple outward, influencing how spells are cast, potions brewed, and healing administered. By recognizing herbology's place within the wider magical framework, students gain a deeper appreciation for its quiet authority. It may lack the spectacle of wandwork or the drama of dueling, but its contributions are enduring and essential. Through plants, magic is sustained, supported, and renewed, cycle after cycle, beneath the notice of those who look only for flash and force. In this way, herbology stands as a reminder that the most powerful magic often works invisibly, binding disciplines together through shared dependence on living foundations. Understanding this interconnectedness marks a turning point in a student's education, signalling a move from fragmented learning toward true magical literacy. For students, time spent in the greenhouses leaves an impression that often lingers longer than any specific spell or formula. The experience of working among magical plants engages senses and emotions in ways few other classes do. From the moment they step inside, students enter a space governed by slower rhythms, where progress is measured in days and weeks, rather than incantations and flashes of light. This shift in pace can feel disorienting at first, especially for those accustomed to more immediate results. The atmosphere itself encourages a different kind of attention. The air is thick with layered scents, damp soil, crushed leaves, faint sweetness, and sharper notes that signal caution. Light filters through enchanted glass, softened and diffused, casting gentle shadows across rows of growing plants. Sounds are muted, absorbed by foliage and spellwork alike. Conversations instinctively quiet, as though raised voices might disturb the delicate balance of growth. Over time, students come to associate this environment with calm focus. Emotional responses to herbology vary widely. Some students feel immediate comfort, drawn to the tactile and grounded nature of the work. Others experience unease, particularly when confronted with plants that move or respond unpredictably. These reactions are not dismissed. Instructors acknowledge them as natural, guiding students to work through discomfort rather than avoid it. This emotional engagement becomes part of the learning process, teaching resilience and self-awareness alongside technical skill. As weeks pass, routines form. Students learn to recognize the greenhouse's subtle signals. When a plant needs water before wilting is visible, when soil requires turning, when growth has stalled. These patterns foster a sense of responsibility that extends beyond individual assignments. A neglected plant affects not only the student assigned to it, but the broader ecosystem within the greenhouse. This shared responsibility encourages cooperation and accountability. Many students discover that herbology offers a rare opportunity for reflection within the demanding Hogwarts schedule. The repetitive tasks of watering, pruning, and monitoring growth create space for thought. Some find that ideas from other subjects settle into place, while their hands are busy with soil and leaves. Others simply experience a quiet respite from the pressures of performance. The greenhouses become, for many, a place where learning feels less like striving and more like listening. Over the years, exposure to plant magic shapes students' perceptions of control and success. Growth cannot be forced without consequence. A rushed process may produce results, but those results are often unstable or short-lived. Students internalize the value of patience, learning that restraint is not passivity, but an active choice. This lesson carries forward into later magical practice, influencing how they approach complex spells and long-term goals. The greenhouses also foster a particular kind of confidence. Unlike subjects where mistakes can be corrected instantly with a counterspell, errors in herbology often unfold slowly. Students learn to notice early signs of trouble and intervene gently. Success becomes associated with vigilance and care rather than boldness. This confidence is quieter but deeply rooted. For some students, experiences in the greenhouses ignite lifelong passions. They pursue careers in herbology, healing, potion making, or conservation, guided by early encounters that revealed a connection to living magic. Others carry forward an enduring respect for the labour behind magical conveniences they may never again cultivate themselves. Even those who consider herbology merely a requirement leave with altered perspectives. Memories formed in the greenhouses tend to be sensory and emotional rather than purely academic. The feel of soil under gloves, the weight of a watering can, the muffled sound of leaves brushing together, these impressions persist long after specific facts fade. In later years, former students often recall particular plants with surprising clarity, as though those moments of care left deeper imprints than examinations ever could. Through these experiences, herbology shapes not just magical competence, but character. It teaches students to attend, to wait, and to accept limits without resignation. The greenhouses become classrooms of temperament as much as technique, influencing how witches and wizards relate to the living world beyond Hogwarts. In this way, the student experience within the greenhouses extends far beyond the curriculum. It cultivates habits of mind and heart that endure, quietly informing how magic is practiced, how responsibility is understood, and how growth, both magical and personal, is approached throughout a lifetime. Magical plants occupy a distinctive symbolic space within wizarding culture, one shaped as much by tradition and belief as by practical use. Unlike spells which exist only at the moment of casting, plants persist through time, growing, reproducing, and carrying meaning across generations. This continuity imbues them with associations that extend beyond their immediate effects. Certain plants become linked with protection, secrecy, renewal, or danger, not because of singular properties, but because of how they have been encountered and relied upon historically. Within this symbolic framework, the Hogwarts greenhouses function as liminal spaces. They stand at the boundary between cultivated order and untamed magic, embodying the tension inherent in all magical practice, Inside, magic is guided and shaped, yet never fully subdued. Plants retain autonomy even as they are cared for, reminding students that control is always partial. This balance reflects a broader cultural understanding that magic thrives not under domination, but within negotiated boundaries. Protective plants hold particular cultural significance. Species used to ward homes, conceal entrances, or repel harmful forces are often associated with safety and guardianship. Their presence in domestic spaces reinforces the idea that protection can be living and adaptive rather than rigid. In the greenhouses, these plants are treated with a quiet reverence, their cultivation framed as a responsibility rather than a convenience. Students learn that maintaining protection requires ongoing care, mirroring the vigilance required to safeguard communities. Conversely, plants associated with secrecy and concealment occupy a more ambiguous place in cultural memory. Used historically to hide magical settlements or obscure dangerous knowledge, these plants reflect wizarding society's long periods of concealment. Their study invites reflection on the costs of secrecy, both protective and isolating. Within the greenhouses, such plants are approached thoughtfully, with attention to the ethical implications of their use. Dangerous plants too carry symbolic weight. They serve as reminders of magic's capacity for harm when mishandled or exploited. Tales of accidents and misuse circulate alongside practical instruction, embedding caution into cultural narratives. These stories are not intended to frighten, but to contextualize risk within shared memory. By situating danger within tradition, wizarding culture encourages respect rather than denial. Plants associated with renewal and healing offer a counterbalance. Their cycles of growth and regeneration resonate deeply with cultural ideas of recovery and continuity. Used in restorative rituals and medicinal practices, they symbolize resilience and hope. Their presence in the greenhouses underscores a collective commitment to healing as a core value, reinforcing the idea that magic's highest purpose lies in restoration rather than domination. Seasonal changes within the greenhouses also hold symbolic meaning. The ebb and flow of growth mirrors the passage of time, grounding magical education in natural cycles. Students witness dormancy and resurgence firsthand, learning that apparent stillness often precedes renewal. This rhythm fosters patience and perspective, countering the impulse to seek constant activity or immediate results. Cultural rituals sometimes intersect with herbology, drawing upon plant symbolism for ceremonies and commemorations. While Hogwarts itself remains largely secular in practice, the broader wizarding world integrates plant magic into rites marking transitions, losses, and beginnings. Understanding these traditions enriches students' appreciation of herbology's place within lived experience, beyond academic application. The greenhouses thus become repositories not only of plants, but of meaning. Each specimen carries stories layered over centuries of use and interpretation. Students encounter these narratives implicitly, absorbing cultural knowledge alongside technical skill. This integration of meaning and practice distinguishes herbology from more abstract disciplines. By engaging with the symbolic dimensions of magical plants, students come to see herbology as a dialogue between past and present. Cultivation now becomes an act of continuity, connecting individual effort to collective heritage. The greenhouses, quiet and unassuming, hold within them the accumulated wisdom of generations who learned that living magic speaks most clearly when approached with attentiveness and respect. Through this lens, herbology reveals itself not merely as a subject, but as a cultural practice. It shapes how wizarding society understands growth, danger, and renewal, offering a living framework for navigating the complexities of magic itself. As understanding deepens, herbology inevitably raises ethical questions that cannot be answered through technique alone. Cultivating magical plants carries responsibilities that extend beyond successful growth or harvest. Each specimen represents a life sustained within artificial boundaries, shaped by human intention and institutional need. Acknowledging this reality is central to advanced herbological education, where students are encouraged to think critically about the long-term implications of their work. One of the primary ethical considerations involves conservation. Many magical plants are rare not because they are inherently scarce, but because their habitats have been diminished through overharvesting, environmental disruption, or careless spellwork. Hogwarts greenhouses serve as refuges for some of these species, preserving genetic lineages that might otherwise vanish. This role carries weight. Preservation demands careful record keeping, controlled propagation, and restraint in use. Students learn that maintaining a species may require limiting access, even when demand is high. Sustainability extends beyond numbers. Magical plants interact with their environment in complex ways, exchanging energy and responding to magical currents. Overcultivation can exhaust these currents, weakening not only individual plants, but the broader system supporting them. Herbology instruction emphasizes cyclical thinking, taking only what can be replenished, allowing periods of rest, and monitoring signs of stress. These practices mirror sustainable approaches in non-magical agriculture, adapted to a world where magic itself is a resource. Consent and agency present more challenging questions, particularly with semi-sentient plants. While they cannot communicate in human terms, their behaviours indicate preference and aversion. Ethical cultivation requires recognising and respecting these signals. Students are taught to differentiate between necessary intervention and convenience-driven manipulation. Just because a plant can be compelled does not mean it should be. This distinction reinforces a broader moral framework applicable across magical practice. Risk management also carries ethical weight. Housing dangerous plants obliges caretakers to protect not only themselves, but others who may be affected by containment failure. Hogwarts invests heavily in preventative measures, but students learn that no system is infallible. Ethical responsibility includes preparedness for failure, contingency plans, rapid response protocols, and transparent communication. These measures reflect a commitment to collective safety rather than individual ambition. The use of magical plants for profit introduces further complexity. Commercial demand can incentivize shortcuts, over-harvesting, or unethical cultivation practices. Within Hogwarts, discussion of these issues remains grounded in fact rather than condemnation. Students examine case studies illustrating how exploitation leads to long-term harm, both ecological and social. Through these discussions, they're encouraged to consider how personal choices contribute to broader outcomes. Herbology also intersects with ethical considerations surrounding experimentation. While research drives understanding forward, it must be balanced against potential harm. Experimental cultivation is conducted cautiously, with oversight and clear objectives. Students observe these processes, learning that innovation carries responsibility. Curiosity alone is insufficient justification for risk. Stewardship emerges as a unifying concept, a across these ethical dimensions. To steward magical plants is to accept care as an ongoing obligation rather than a temporary task. This perspective reframes success. A thriving greenhouse is not one that produces the most ingredients, but one that maintains balance over time. Students absorb this lesson through repeated exposure, internalizing values that extend beyond herbology. Ethical reflection is not confined to lectures. It is woven into daily practice, from how plants are addressed to how waste is managed. Composting spent plant matter, restoring depleted soil, and documenting outcomes all reinforce accountability. These habits cultivate mindfulness, ensuring that ethics remain active rather than theoretical. By confronting these responsibilities directly, herbology prepares students to engage with magic thoughtfully and sustainably. The questions raised do not yield simple answers, but they foster discernment. Graduates leave with an understanding that power and care are inseparable, and that the true measure of magical practice lies in its capacity to endure without harm. In embracing this ethical framework, the greenhouses stand as quiet models of what responsible magic can look like. They demonstrate that growth guided by respect can be both productive and principled, offering lessons that resonate far beyond rows of leaves and soil. As the day fades across the Hogwarts grounds, the greenhouses remain quietly at work, holding within them countless lives unfolding at their own deliberate pace. Leaves continue to unfurl, roots press deeper into enchanted soil, and subtle exchanges of magic pass unseen beneath the glass. Long after students have set aside gloves and earmuffs, the plants persist, indifferent to schedules, yet deeply shaped by the care they receive. In this constancy, the greenhouses reveal their enduring role within the school and the wider wizarding world. Herbology ultimately teaches that magic is not always something to be summoned or commanded. Often, it is something to be supported, guided, and allowed to grow. The lessons learned among the greenhouses emphasize continuity over conquest, patience over urgency. Students come to understand that lasting magic depends on relationships formed through attentiveness and restraint. These insights follow them beyond Hogwarts, influencing how they approach challenges both magical and mundane. The greenhouses themselves stand as quiet witnesses to generations of learning. Each cohort of students leaves behind subtle traces, adjusted routines, refined techniques, small improvements passed forward. Over time, these cumulative efforts shape an environment that reflects collective wisdom rather than individual achievement. The plants in turn respond to this stability, thriving within boundaries maintained through shared responsibility. In a world where magic can be volatile and consequences severe, the steady presence of living, growing things offers grounding. Magical plants remind witches and wizards that power is not diminished by care, but strengthened by it. Growth achieved slowly endures longer, and magic practiced with humility leaves fewer scars. These truths, reinforced quietly in the greenhouses, form a counterbalance to more dramatic expressions of magic. For many, memories of herbology linger as impressions rather than specifics. The hush of the greenhouses, the weight of soil, the rhythm of tending life. These experiences resurface years later, often unexpectedly. They shape instinctive responses, guiding hands toward caution, minds toward patience. Even those who never return to plant magic professionally carry its lessons within them. The greenhouses also embody continuity across change. Professors come and go, curricula evolve, and the wizarding world beyond Hogwarts shifts in response to new challenges. Yet the fundamental work of cultivation remains. Plants still require light, water and care. This persistence offers reassurance that some aspects of magic remain stable, rooted in principles that transcend eras. In reflecting on herbology, it becomes clear that its value lies not only in what it produces, but in how it teaches. Through living magic, students learn to engage with complexity without seeking dominance. They learn to accept limits without resignation. These lessons, though quiet, shape character as surely as any spell shapes matter. As you settle into rest, imagine the greenhouses at Hogwarts, bathed in soft twilight. Glass panes glow faintly, warmed by lingering enchantments. Inside, leaves rustle gently, and the slow work of growth continues undisturbed. It is a reminder that magic does not sleep, but it does not rush either. If you've enjoyed exploring the greenhouses and the living magic they contain, consider liking the video and subscribing to Restricted Section Lore for more calm, long-form journeys through the wizarding world. Your support helps keep these quiet stories growing. And for now, let the world of roots and leaves, soil and glass settle into stillness as the night carries the greenhouses and you into rest. Even after lessons end and lanterns are dimmed, the greenhouses remain spaces of subtle motion and quiet exchange. Magical plants do not observe the same divisions between day and night that humans do. Some respond to moonlight more readily than sunlight, unfurling leaves or releasing faint magical residue only in darkness. Others slow their growth deliberately after dusk, conserving energy in ways that mirror natural circadian rhythms while remaining distinctly magical. These nocturnal behaviours are rarely witnessed by students, yet they shape the health and balance of the greenhouses as profoundly as daytime care. Within this nighttime stillness, the accumulated magic of centuries becomes more perceptible. Enchantments layered into glass, soil and stone hum softly, not as a sound, but as a sensation. It is here that the distinction between structure and life feels thinnest. The greenhouses are not passive containers, but living systems shaped by repeated intention and attention. Each charm renewed, each ward adjusted, adds to a quiet continuity that cannot be rushed or replicated elsewhere. This continuity mirrors the way herbology knowledge itself is transmitted. Much of what defines effective plant care cannot be reduced entirely to written instruction. Timing, pressure, and awareness are learned through repetition and presence. A student may memorize guidelines for watering or pruning, but true understanding emerges only after many small corrections, guided by observation. In this way, herbology resists shortcuts. It insists on participation, rewarding those who remain attentive long enough for patterns to reveal themselves. The patience cultivated in the greenhouses often surprises students later in life. Faced with challenges that resist immediate resolution, former pupils recall, sometimes unconsciously, the rhythm of plant growth. They remember waiting for signs rather than forcing outcomes, adjusting conditions rather than demanding change. These habits, rooted in early herbology lessons, quietly influence decision-making far beyond the school grounds. Magical plants also teach acceptance of limits. Not every specimen can be saved. Some decline despite meticulous care, their magic fading in ways no spell can reverse. Instructors address these moments with honesty, framing loss as an inherent aspect of working with living systems. Students learn that failure does not always indicate error. Sometimes it reflects forces beyond control, reminding them that magic operates within constraints that must be respected. This acceptance tempers ambition. Rather than striving to dominate or perfect, students are encouraged to maintain balance. Success becomes measured not by extraordinary results, but by consistency and care over time. A stable greenhouse, quietly thriving, represents achievement more fully than dramatic breakthroughs. This perspective offers a counterpoint to narratives of power that dominate other areas of magical education. The greenhouses also foster intergenerational connection. Techniques refined by one professor are passed to the next, adjusted subtly as understanding evolves. Plants propagated from older stock carry with them traces of prior care, responding differently than newly introduced specimens. In this way, the work of former students and teachers remains present, embedded in living material rather than records alone. For listeners and readers alike, imagining these spaces invites a slowing of thought. The repetition of routine, the constancy of growth, and the muted atmosphere create a sense of continuity that contrasts with the urgency of daily concerns. Herbology offers a vision of magic that unfolds gently, asking only attention and time in return. As the night deepens, the greenhouses settle into a steady equilibrium. Growth continues, unseen but assured, guided by structures built to support rather than constrain. This quiet persistence stands as a reminder that not all magic seeks notice. Some of it simply endures, rooted in care, waiting patiently for the next morning to begin again. In the slow hours before dawn, when the castle itself seems to breathe more quietly, the greenhouses exist in a state of poised anticipation. Moisture gathers along the edges of leaves, condensing and releasing in cycles too subtle to notice at a glance. Roots adjust their grip within the soil, responding to minute changes in temperature and magical pressure. These movements are neither hurried nor aimless. They reflect a long-practiced equilibrium, refined through countless nights of uninterrupted growth. It is during these hours that the true tempo of herbology becomes most apparent. Growth does not proceed in straight lines or predictable increments. It pulses, pauses, and resumes, guided by internal logic, shaped by magic and environment together. Students rarely witness these patterns directly, yet their daytime work supports them nonetheless. Every careful adjustment made earlier, the measured watering, the softened light, the renewed ward, continues to exert influence long after hands have withdrawn. This delayed reciprocity is one of herbology's quiet lessons. Effort is not always rewarded immediately. Care offered now may manifest days or weeks later, visible only to those attentive enough to notice. In a world accustomed to instant magical response, this delayed feedback reshapes expectations. It teaches that outcomes worth sustaining often emerge gradually, and that patience is itself a form of participation. The greenhouses also demonstrate how restraint can amplify rather than diminish effect. By limiting interference, caretakers allow plants to express their inherent tendencies more fully. Overwatering, over-pruning, or excessive charm work may accelerate short-term growth but weaken long-term stability. This balance between action and inaction becomes intuitive over time, guiding hands to intervene only when necessary. As seasons turn, the cumulative impact of these choices becomes visible. Beds that were once sparse fill in evenly. Specimens grown under consistent conditions develop resilience, responding calmly to minor disruptions. These outcomes are not dramatic, but they are reliable. The greenhouses thus reward constancy over intensity, a principle that resonates far beyond their walls. For those listening late into the night, the idea of growth continuing quietly elsewhere can be grounding. While attention drifts and thoughts slow, the work of leaves and roots persists without urgency. There is comfort in knowing that not all progress depends on conscious effort. Some things unfold simply because the conditions have been set with care. Herbology invites this perspective repeatedly. It encourages a trust in process, an acceptance that preparation matters more than force. By aligning with these rhythms, witches and wizards learn to move through their own work with greater ease. Effort becomes more sustainable, attention more generous, and outcomes more enduring. As this exploration of the greenhouses settles, imagine that sense of continuity extending outward. Beyond Hogwarts, fields, forests, and hidden gardens carry on similar cycles, each shaped by care given long before. Magic, in its most stable form, does not rush. It grows, responds, and waits. Allow that understanding to linger. The greenhouses remain, quietly alive beneath the glass, holding space for growth without demand. And in that steady persistence, they offer a gentle reminder. Rest is not the absence of progress, but part of the cycle that allows it to continue. When viewed as a whole, the greenhouses at Hogwarts operate less like classrooms and more like slow-moving conversations between magic and time. Every decision made within them, what to plant, when to intervene, when to step back, becomes part of an ongoing exchange that stretches far beyond any single school year. This continuity gives herbology a distinctive emotional texture. It is not a subject that resets with each term. Instead, it accumulates quietly, shaped by long memory and incremental change. This accumulation can be felt in the way certain areas of the greenhouses seem more settled than others. Beds that have remained undisturbed for years carry a different presence, their soil dense with history and residual magic. Plants grown there often exhibit greater stability, responding calmly to handling and environmental shifts. Students may not know the specifics of what was cultivated there before, but they sense the difference all the same. These spaces reward gentleness, as though they recognize patterns of care repeated over time. New plantings, by contrast, feel tentative. Soil must be conditioned, wards calibrated, and expectations adjusted. Growth begins cautiously, testing boundaries before committing fully. These early stages mirror the experience of new students entering herbology for the first time. Both plant and student require patience, consistency, and reassurance. Neither can be rushed without consequence. The greenhouses thus reflect a broader truth about magical education. Mastery is rarely the result of singular insight. It emerges through repeated attentive engagements with complexity. Herbology makes this process visible. Leaves yellow before they brown. Stems weaken before they collapse. Recovery, too, unfolds gradually. Students learn to notice these thresholds, intervening early rather than reacting late. This attentiveness carries forward into other areas of life. Former students often find themselves more comfortable with uncertainty, more willing to wait for clarity before acting. The habit of watching, cultivated among plants, translates into more measured decision-making elsewhere. In this way, herbology shapes temperament as much as technical skill. There is also a quiet humility embedded in the work. No matter how experienced a caretaker becomes, plants continue to surprise. Weather shifts, magical fluctuations, or subtle changes in environment can alter outcomes unexpectedly. Rather than framing these moments as failures, Herbology treats them as reminders of shared limits. Magic remains powerful, but never absolute. Over long periods, this perspective fosters resilience. Students learn that setbacks do not negate effort. A season of poor growth does not erase years of careful tending. Recovery is possible, but it requires renewed attention rather than blame. This approach contrasts sharply with more punitive models of learning, offering instead a framework built on adaptation. As dawn eventually arrives and light strengthens across the glass, the greenhouses transition seamlessly into another day of work. There is no dramatic shift, only a gradual increase in activity. Leaves orient toward brightness, moisture evaporates, growth resumes where it paused. This continuity underscores one of Herbology's most enduring lessons. Progress rarely announces itself. It simply continues, supported by conditions set with care. For those listening, as sleep deepens or gently recedes, this image offers reassurance. Somewhere, growth is happening quietly, without urgency or demand. Magic unfolds, whether or not it is observed, sustained by rhythms older than any individual concern. The greenhouses remain patient and alive, holding space for growth across time. And in that steady presence, they remind us that attention, given consistently, is one of the most powerful forms of magic there is. As weeks turn into months, the cumulative effects of steady care within the greenhouses become unmistakable. Plants grown under consistent conditions develop a kind of quiet confidence in their environment. Their growth patterns stabilize, responses to handling become predictable, and their magical properties express themselves with greater clarity. This reliability is not accidental. It is the product of countless small decisions made thoughtfully and repeated faithfully, a testament to the power of sustained attention. Students who spend enough time in the greenhouses begin to sense this stability intuitively. They learn to distinguish between a plant that is merely resting and one that is under stress. Leaves communicate through tension and colour, stems through posture, roots through subtle resistance felt when soil is turned. These signals are not dramatic, but they are consistent. Recognizing them requires slowing down, setting aside impatience, and allowing perception to sharpen. This sharpening of perception often carries over into unexpected areas. Students report noticing details elsewhere on the grounds that previously escaped them. Shifts in weather before clouds gather. Changes in ambient magic before spells falter. Subtle moods in magical creatures encountered during care of magical creatures lessons. Herbology trains attention in a way that broadens awareness rather than narrowing it, cultivating sensitivity rather than specialization alone. Within the greenhouses, this sensitivity is reinforced by repetition. Tasks that once required conscious effort become fluid. Hands move confidently, adjusting supports, trimming growth, or refreshing soil without hesitation. This fluency frees attention for deeper observation. Students begin to anticipate needs rather than respond to problems, aligning their actions with emerging conditions rather than reacting after imbalance has occurred. The environment itself responds to this fluency. Plants cared for by attentive hands often exhibit fewer defensive behaviours. They settle into cooperative patterns, conserving energy that might otherwise be spent reacting to disruption. This cooperation is not submission, but mutual accommodation. It reflects a relationship built on trust, however limited that trust may be across species. Herbology thus reveals a model of interaction distinct from many other forms of magic. Instead of imposing will through incantation, It emphasizes alignment with existing processes. Change is guided rather than forced. Outcomes emerge through collaboration with living systems rather than domination over them. This approach challenges assumptions about power, reframing effectiveness as harmony rather than control. Over time, students internalize this reframing. They become less inclined to seek immediate results at the expense of stability. In group work, they listen more readily, attuned to the rhythms of others as well as themselves. The habits formed among plants subtly influence interpersonal dynamics, encouraging patience and cooperation beyond the greenhouse walls. The greenhouses also provide space for reflection on scale. Individual actions matter, but their impact accumulates only through consistency. A single missed watering rarely causes disaster, just as a single act of care rarely ensures success. It is the pattern that counts. This understanding tempers perfectionism, replacing it with commitment to process rather than outcome. As another night settles over Hogwarts, this pattern continues uninterrupted. Growth proceeds incrementally, guided by conditions established through mindful effort. There is comfort in this continuity, a sense that some forms of progress do not depend on urgency or visibility. They persist quietly, sustained by care that does not seek recognition. In returning again and again to this image, Herbology offers a kind of reassurance. Magic, at its most enduring, does not demand constant attention. It requires conditions set well and maintained patiently. Within the greenhouses, this truth unfolds leaf by leaf, root by root, reminding all who learn there that steady care is itself a powerful and lasting form of magic. As we approach the end of this story, you may find yourself dozing off to sleep, or becoming dreary-eyed, or maybe you're already asleep. In either case, it is time for me to fade away and let the dreams take it from here. Have a good night and enjoy some crackles from the fireplace to help you drift further into your deep slumber.